technology can never be a threat. I mean, technology is a means. So the history of architecture, the history of humanity coming out of the cave into a dwelling is a story of technology, of innovation. The high-tech buildings of the past, the cathedrals, they're miracles of technology. So it's how you use the technology. And the technology is changing all the time.
Nowadays, technology and architecture cannot be separated, and when the environmental systems were first introduced in Royal Victoria Hospital and Larkin Administration buildings, these innovative technologies started to develop and integrate into large buildings, affecting their appearance and forms. How the developed technology and systems in large buildings were integrated into contemporary architecture. Different ideas and purposes from architects presented different integration of technologies to the buildings, presenting different expressions. In the 1970s, Centre Pompidou in Paris, France was designed by Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers. This hyper-articulated high-tech building was the first major example of an inside-out building with its structural system, mechanical systems, and circulation exposed and color-coded on the exterior of the building.
So then we said, okay, we'll have fantastic flexibility. The one thing we know about this age is that it's all about change. If there's one constant, it's change. So we said we will make massive floors, which weigh, in fact, the size of 2 football pitches, with no vertical interruptions. Structure on the outside, mechanical service on the outside, people movement on the outside, and theoretically you can do anything you want on those floors.
According to Piano, the design was meant to be not a building but a town where you find everything. Lunch, great art, a library, great music. In 1986, another highly articulated building, Lloyd's Building, was designed by Richard Rogers in the City of London. Like the Centre Pompidou, the building was innovative in having its services such as staircases, lifts, ductwork, electrical power conduits, and water pipes on the outside, leaving an uncluttered space inside.
We were able to convince Lloyd's that we would put mechanical services on the outside because mechanical services have a short life. In other words, it's like the engines of a car. And the buildings have hundreds of years, like streets have thousands of years. It's the medieval streets, or streets now that are there, medieval streets. Things which have a short life we'll put on the outside. Keep the floors clear, because Lloyd's said they wanted 2 things. They wanted a building that would last into the next century. We made that one. And they wanted a building which would meet their changing needs.
Different from the approach how Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers thought about hyper-articulated buildings, Norman Foster thought the building should be more about the interaction with context and infrastructure, and believed that complexity should be distilled into simplicity.
If we look at the individual towers here, you'll find that the public domain, the public space, penetrates those buildings. There's an interaction. So that interest in the city and infrastructure manifests itself in designs which go beyond architecture and which influence when it is pure architecture. It's a search for legibility. It's a search for a simple analog experience in a digital world. So how do you somehow, through a complex process, distill it down? It's a bit like somebody saying, I can write you an essay, I can write you a long letter, but to write a poem, that's a tough one. So how do you distill all that complexity down so that for the people who really matter, you make it as great an experience as you can?